Hi, everybody. I'm just going to put this up here since we don't have any slides. So I'm just going to, you unfortunately can't see them. I worked really hard on them. They look good, but you'll just have to trust me. So you can call me Jules. I go by Jules, actually, instead of Julia these days. Feels a little bit more like me. Jack was talking about sort of, how we feel most ourselves, and so you can call me Jules. As Peter said, I am the founder and CEO of Global Girl Project, which is an international organization that works all throughout the Global South. Global South, by show of hands, who's heard of the term Global South before? A few of you. Okay, amazing, good. Global South is what we refer to developing countries. We don't use developing countries anymore because that would insinuate that those countries were trying to become developed, which maybe is better or worse. So we don't use that. We actually don't even use Global South as much anymore. We're now using the term majority world because what we're talking about is really the majority of the world. Right? And that's where we work. I'm going to talk about Global Girl Project in a little bit, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So I am Canadian, just in case you were thinking that I was American. I'm not American. I'm Canadian. I am a boat dweller, so I live on a canal boat in and around the rivers and the canals of London, sometimes a little bit further out if I feel like going on a little trip. I'm also a capoeirista. Who here has heard of capoeira? Anybody heard of capoeira? Oh my goodness, nobody's heard of capoeira. Capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian martial art. Lots of spinning kicks and acrobatics and all that kind of stuff. So I teach and I train capoeira. And I'm also a dog lover. So my best friend is a little tiny dog named Lua. And I'm also, the lights are better over here. I can see more of you here. I'm also somebody who believes intrinsically in the power of community to create change. And how we define community it changes all the time, and it's as different as each of us individually. But I really believe that we all have a responsibility to connect with others and to work collaboratively to create change in our world. And I've been a social worker and a therapist for many years. I've worked with teenagers since I was just above being a teenager. I think teenagers are like the most amazing group of people in the world because you have lots of ideas and passion and your mind is open to different possibilities. And I'm also somebody who grew up in a very small town in southern Ontario, Canada. A very small, all-white town in southern Ontario, Canada. Funnily enough, I would have a picture up here right now of me and my brother and my mom and my dad and a donkey in the New Forest, but it's not working. So you can picture that up there. I also grew up coming here every year. My grandparents on my mom's side, so my mom is white and English, they lived in Ashley Heath. Do you guys know where Ashley Heath is? Yeah? So I haven't been back here since 2005, but I actually, from the age of 6 months, I used to come to Ashley Heath every year. I used to go to the beach in Bournemouth every summer. And back then, and it seems like maybe things have changed a little bit, but back then it was also a very white part of the country. And so from the beginning, I really stood out. I stood out. And I used to go to the grocery store with my mom, and my mom would be in front of me and they would check her through at the cash register, and then they'd look at me and they'd be like, "How can I help you?" And I'd be like 7 or 8 years old. And this used to happen like every week because they assumed that how could I possibly be with this white woman in front of me, right? So from the beginning, I really, really felt like I didn't belong. When I was a teenager, around your age, I also started to realize that there was a possibility that I might also be gay. This was a long time ago. I don't want to age myself, but it was a long, long time ago. Well before people were really talking about being gay. It wasn't something that we discussed in schools. This was before Ellen DeGeneres came out, although I told my partner I was going to say that, and then she was like, I don't know if they're going to know. You do know who Ellen is? People know who Ellen is, right? Yeah. So this is before Ellen came out. This is a long time ago, and so nobody really was talking about it. And so there was a piece of myself that I put to the side somewhere that I would probably, look into a little bit later in life. And I actually went to my first gay pride when I was 20, and I was like, oh my goodness, these are my people, this is who I am. And the next day, I got on a flight with my parents to come here. And then spent 2 weeks with my parents and my grandparents. You can imagine how I felt, because I was just like, oh, I just want to get back to Toronto and figure out who I am. So all of these pieces of myself were pieces that perhaps could make me seem like I was other, like I didn't belong. That, it sounds a little bit sad and depressing, right? And for a long time when I was a teenager, I was quite depressed and quite unhappy. But as I got a little bit older, what I realized is those things that were challenges were actually opportunities. And that's an important piece I want you to take with you. Every single challenge is actually an opportunity if you just flip it on the other side. And that knowing is something that I used throughout the rest of my life to get me where I am today, as a founder, as a CEO of an international charity, as somebody who spends her days working with girls in some of the most challenging parts of the world, to use those challenges as opportunities. So this is something that I used I said, oh, guess what? The rules don't apply to me. Right? This was back when, my mom, when I told her I was gay, she was like, she cried, and are you ever going to have kids, and you're going to lead this difficult life? This was before we knew that it's not just like anybody else, right? And so I use as an opportunity to live a life far outside the box, because the rules didn't apply to me. And I think it's important to know that there are different ways to live your life, to push yourself, to do things that are different than what is expected of you. And I tell you all of this is because this is what brought me to the founding of Global Girl Project, of doing something different. One thing that I didn't tell you about myself is that I'm also a feminist. Now, I know, we're in a different time, right? Back when I was growing up, the word feminist was like, it was a dirty, dirty word that people didn't want to use to label themselves. But I'm also a feminist. I run a feminist organization. What does that mean? So for me, being a feminist means that you believe in equality for everybody. Because girls and women are not just girls and women. They're also people of all different shades and colors. They're also people of all different religious backgrounds, all different cultures, all different ethnicities, all different ages, all different abilities, right? The only thing that girls and women are not is men. Now, boys and men are made up of all of those other elements as well, right? So if I am a feminist, what I feel that means is that I actually believe not just in the equality for girls and women, but for equality for everybody. And so if we change that definition, if we look at feminist leadership as leading from a place of equality for everybody, then by a show of hands here, who feels like they might identify as a feminist? Beautiful. Look around, put your hands up. That is very, 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 very powerful, because many people think that being a feminist is about being a girl and a woman, and it's not. It has very little to do with that. It has to do with believing that everybody is created equal, and that everybody deserves equal chances at whatever it is that they want in their lives. And so that means anybody can be a feminist, right? So I took that idea and I developed an organization. Let me just check my time. Called Global Girl Project, as I said. And we work all throughout the Global South with partners. We work in Peru and Bolivia and Haiti and Zimbabwe and Uganda and South Africa and India and Jordan and Cambodia and Iraq and Afghanistan. And we teach girls how to lead. We teach girls how to find their voice, how to use their voice to create change. At Global Girl Project, we know that your most powerful tool is your voice, and it's free. And so we work with girls who often feel like they're voiceless. How many of you here have felt like you don't have a voice? Put up your hand. You can even put it down a little low if you want, so nobody sees, right? Many of us feel that way. And so Global Girl works with girls, same age as you, in places like Afghanistan, where their voices have been taken away, right? And we teach them how to lead from a space of power, how to redefine power, because our girls, when we ask them about power, they think only of men, and they think only of it in a negative way. And what we ask our girls, and what I'm asking you, is to think about power in a different way. What if power wasn't power over, but what if power was power within? And what I would argue is that that's looking at power from a feminist perspective. And if we all agree that we're feminists, then we all believe that power is not, if one person has power, that's actually not power. That's ego. But if we all have power and we look to the person next to us and we look to the person behind us and in front of us and we take them with us and we bring them up together, then that is power. And so Global Girl is working, we're teaching girls not only how to lead, how to run their own events, how to run their own projects, but we're also creating a network of girls who are working together for change. And it's no easy feat. Our girls are not on the internet. Shock, right? Our girls don't have phones. Our girls don't know how to use the internet. And so we're trying to create a global network of girls who are also not obviously connected and trying to figure out how to do that. Because as a feminist, and somebody who believes in feminist leadership principles, we believe that community and collaboration is much more powerful. Is this off? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Is much more powerful than competition. Right? A feminist perspective is like, how do we work together, as opposed to how do you work only for yourself to bring yourself up? And so we are working with girls, we're teaching them how to write their own stories. We're teaching them how to create their own projects. So we're working with girls, for instance, in Afghanistan, to teach other girls how to speak English. We're working with girls in Nigeria who are teaching people in their community about recycling, about how to deal with waste management. We're working with girls in Cambodia who are doing work around gang violence. And this might not sound like a lot, but in the places that we're working, our girls don't get an opportunity to tell people what they think. And so we're in the UK, right? We have different opportunities here. And so my challenge to you is to think about how you can take one small step as a feminist with feminist leadership principles to start to use your voice to create change. How can you live your life a bit further outside the box? How can you take challenges in your life and turn them into opportunity? Because at Global Girl Project, we work with girls who would appear to have very little opportunity, but actually are able to to use those little bits that they've learned from Global Girl Project to create opportunity for others, to teach others how to lead and how to actually make a difference in their community. So that's my challenge for you today. If I had more time, I would get each of you to kind of like sit there for a minute and think about one small thing that you can do in your school, at home with your family, with your friends, something you can tell somebody, something that you can teach somebody else. But I don't have time for that today. So I would ask for you to maybe even have a conversation with your friend. We're going into a break now, I think. Oh, yes, after the questions. To think about what's one small thing that you can do. Because if girls in Afghanistan who are silenced, who cannot leave their houses, who cannot go to school, are able to still find a way to teach others, then I know 100% that you're able to do the same. Thank you.
Julia Lynch, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go straight into, we've got just a few minutes before break, go straight into some questions. Wave really high if you want a microphone to get to you. We'll just kick off with a question online.
Okay, why is feminism often mistaken for just supporting women, not both genders?
Great question. Well, what I would say is that there are some people in power who typically will be in our global society men who fear feminists because there's a fear that there's not enough power to go around, right? So that if women have power, then men don't have power. That's not actually true. That's a very patriarchal idea of there's not enough competition, right? But if we look at things from a collaborative perspective, that means there's actually not enough power to go around. And so there are people with power who are afraid of other people having power. And one of the best ways to stop that from happening is to make a word like feminism or being a feminist a dirty word, right? And we've been doing this over history for many years.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting because we were talking to Gemma earlier about definition of feminism and that there's going to be different perspectives on that out there. So that's maybe something to have a chat about in the break time. You know, what do we mean by feminism? Can men be feminists? And so on. Again, something to talk about. Have we got a question in the audience? Yeah, we've got a...
Hi.
Hi.
So is that... Oh my God. Is there a way that we can like destigmatize the label of being a feminist so that people aren't like ashamed and like don't want to put themselves as a feminist?
Absolutely, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's about having conversations with each other. I think it's about men and boys also making the choice to take on that label as well. And I know many men and boys who would call themselves feminists, and to have that conversation and realize where the shame comes from. Right? It's the same thing that we did with witches years ago. It's like, oh, they actually have a lot of power, so the best way to take it away is to make it seem like it's bad. And so it's just about information and continuing to talk and to say, yeah, you know what? I'm actually a feminist. I'm actually quite proud of it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We haven't got time for any more questions right now. As I say, Julia will be on the panel later on, so we'll have some chance to talk to her again.